How do you use the 6-step problem-solving process? Today, we're going to look at a process to solve math problems that you can use with your child. We've named it the 6-step problem-solving process. And we're going to use this process to solve a sample problem. In this case, a word problem, since children generally have a more difficult time with word problems than just straight calculations. Take a look at the word problem that you see on the screen. What you want to do is encourage your child to really understand the word problem before they even begin to try to solve it. Let's read the word problem at least 2 times before we try to solve it. Let's read it together. Haley has read 465 pages of a book. Natalie read 120 more pages than Haley. How many pages has Natalie read? Now I'm going to give you a chance to read it to yourself. Now that we've read it 2 times, let's see how much we actually understand about the problem. What do we know about this problem? Notice that I'm going to write down the different parts of the problem that I understand. One thing that we know is that Haley read a book. Haley read 465 pages. We also know that Natalie read more than Haley. Natalie read 120 pages more than Haley. Now we want to take a moment to think. Does this word problem remind us of another word problem that is just like this one? Where maybe one person read more than another, or they ate more than another, or they drove farther than another. It's the whole idea of one amount being more than another. Think about how you solve that problem. Let's go to step number 2. Let's make sure that we understand the question. In this problem, the question is asking us to figure out how many pages that Natalie has read in her book. You want to make sure that you can restate the question in your own words. Don't let your child just read the question again. Make sure they can state the question in their own words, just like I did. I said that what we have to find out is how many pages did Natalie read. Now that we understand what the question is, the next step focuses on how we're going to solve this problem. Think about different ways that you can approach the problem. For this problem, let's look at 10 strategies listed inside of our math mat to see which one we can use. Which of these 10 strategies can work for this problem? From looking at them, I think I could use concrete materials. Those would most likely be base 10 blocks because that's what elementary children use to represent whole numbers. I could draw a picture or diagram. I'm going to include that in my list of strategies that I can use. I could either draw the base 10 blocks instead of using actual base 10 blocks, or I could draw a diagram, such as a tape diagram. Now that I have a list of strategies that I can use, have your child take a look at these strategies and ask, which one do you want to try? Because in step number 4, it says to select an approach and try it out. So the strategy that I'm going to use today is draw a picture. It's going to be a picture of base 10 blocks. Now, what a good mathematician does is they go back and check the details of the story. It says that Haley read 465 pages. So I'm going to draw 4 hundreds, 6 tens, and 5 ones. Watch me while I draw it. So then it says in the story, Natalie reads 120 more pages. So I know that Natalie's amount of pages is more than Haley's. It tells me that it is 120 more pages, so then I'm going to draw base 10 blocks to represent 120. I'm going to draw 100 and then 2 tens, which will be the more for Natalie. I'll draw a bracket to show that I should find the total of 465 and 120 for Natalie. Now that I have that, I'm going to try to solve the problem because this strategy seems like it's going to be very helpful for me. So I'm going to change the base 10 blocks into numbers and add the numbers together. Just like in the base 10 picture, I'm going to put the ones with the ones, the tens with the tens, and the hundreds with the hundreds. I'm trying out this approach to see whether it's going to be helpful for me to get the total that Natalie read. Now watch. I'm going to add the 5 and the 0. 5 ones and 0 ones is 5. 6 tens and 2 tens equals 8 tens. And then 4 hundreds and 100 equals 5 hundreds. Okay? Now I'm going to try to solve it. I think I'm going to stick with this strategy because in our 6 steps problem solving process, it says that you can change to another strategy if this one is not working. But this one is working, so I'm going to stick with it. What I found out is that Natalie read 585 pages of her book. Like all great mathematicians, we want to make an answer sentence to show that we understand the problem that we were solving. My answer sentence is going to be that Natalie read 585 pages of her book. All right? Now that I've selected my approach and tried it out, what I want to do is step number 5. Step number 5 says to check your work. It says to look back at your strategy and your solution and ask yourself, does it make sense? So the first thing that I want to do is check. Does my picture match the word problem? And my picture of the base 10 blocks does match the word problem. So that means that I've done that correctly. Then what I did was put together the 465 and 120, and that told me how many pages Natalie read. I already wrote my answer sentence, which says, Natalie read 585 pages of her book. I want to make sure that what I did was correct. So I'm going to take a moment, like it says in step number 6, to reflect on my approach and the problem. So let me think about the strategy that I just used. That's what you want your child to do. Think about the strategy that they used. Was it helpful? And did it get them the right solution? My strategy was useful because it showed all of the information in the problem. Remember my picture? Let's go back and look at my picture. It shows 465 and 120 more. So my strategy matched the word problem. Then I wrote an equation or number problem that matches my picture. One thing that was helpful about my picture is that it helped me see how much more. It helped me think about what the more really meant. The other thing about my strategy that was helpful is that it was very visual, so that I could connect back to the problem. Now, the other thing that step number 6 says is that you want to ask your child whether there is another strategy that they could have used. In my list, there was another strategy, the tape diagram. I could have used a tape diagram and it would have used only 2 bars instead of all the base 10 blocks that I used. Take a look at my tape diagram. It also matches the word problem, but with fewer pieces to draw. One of the ways to see whether your child really understands the word problem, which you don't have to do every single time, but it's good to sometimes ask your child, is there a word problem that you could write that is like the one that you just solved? A similar word problem that I wrote was, in a pumpkin patch, there are 1,356 pumpkins. The orchard across the street has 450 more apples than the pumpkin patch has pumpkins. How many apples are in the orchard? The word problem is very similar to the one about Haley and Natalie reading the book because it talks about having an amount and finding how much more something is. What we've just done is walk through the 6-step problem-solving process. This process, as you can see, is extremely helpful in getting your child to have a systematic approach to solving math problems. Good luck!